So good morning class, this is Wednesday's English lesson. Hopefully yesterday you found it okay and that you were following what we need to do in. Just reminder, the page layout, okay? All the writing goes 3/4 of the way down the page, so this is where you do your writing. Any notes that you have for learning chunk 1, 2 or 3, jot all your ideas down in that top section. So the bottom section is only where you write your ideas, okay? So your full paragraphs or your subheadings or your headings, it needs to be in this section so that when I read it, this is the section I'm looking at, okay? So that I can mark it and make sure that you are following the strategy and following the structure that we've talked about numerous days now. Okay, so look at the shapes today. We are looking at subheadings, which we should all be familiar with. And the subheading goes here on a page, okay? It's not a heading like a title. It goes near the margin and it's a subheading. You write it with capital letters and then the writing goes underneath it. We're also going to be looking at the house, which is the amenities, and we're going to zoom in. That's what the magnifying glass looks like. On some of the amenities that you will have at Skara Brae, some of the amenities that you will have to offer for the people that are coming to visit. We're also going to be looking at imperative verbs. Now, an imperative verb, those doing science today will know what they are. It's the doing words, it's the ordering words, okay? It's a verb that tells you something that you have to do it, okay? It's an instruction or an order. We're going to use 3 of those. Okay, we're then going to go up to alliteration. We all know what that is, and then we're going to use some descriptive elements, okay, which is going to use adjectives, and we're going to be looking at nouns, so how adjectives and nouns can be put together in order to add description. So you're going to describe the benefits of going to Skara Brae. Right, so subheading, I'm going to give you the freebie today. So your freebie subheading is home, stone, home, okay, so home with a capital H, stone, home. You don't need a capital S, okay? So we'll put a lowercase s in. Home, stone, home is your subheading. That's free. You can write that down now. Brilliant. When you've done that, okay, you can actually write these words in black underneath your subheading, which should be in this section, okay? So you've got this as a freebie in your working word section. This is going to go directly underneath it, and it's Orkney Islands first fully permanent family hotel, okay? So that's what you're going to use as your sentence starter. So Orkney Islands first fully permanent family hotel is going to be your sentence starter, okay? So if you can write that down now, and then we're going to move up to the learning chunk 1 where we're going to design and think about some of the words that are going to come on the end of that sentence starter. So we are looking at verbs. What do you do when you first arrive at a hotel? Okay, some of the ideas are you check in, that's a verb. It's saying what you've done, it's an action, okay? So check in, you might show up, you might just arrive, you might unpack, you might unwind, that's an I. You might chill out, you might relax, you might recline, you might rest. Can you think of any other verbs that describe what you would do when you first arrive at a hotel? So I want you to pause now and have a think, and you can add to my list. Remember, this list goes in the Learning Chunk 1 section at the top of your page. It's a list of ideas. So have a go at thinking of some extra ones that you can add. Okay, back to me. Now I want you to continue the sentence starter that I gave you, which should be found in the working section, okay, where we write our sentences. And I want you to choose 3. So I might choose show up, I might just put relax, and I might put rest, and then I add those 3 verbs to the end of my sentence starter, remembering to put a comma between them, okay? So I would like you to do that now. So choose 3, underline them, and then add them to the end of this sentence. So it should say Orkney Islands, first fully permanent family hotel, show up, relax, okay? And then you can put maybe an and between the second and third one, and rest, and it's giving you an instruction of what to do once you've arrived at the hotel. So that's learning chunk 1 now complete. Okay, so pause it now and I'll get ready for learning chunk 2. Right, back to me. Learning chunk 2 is all about alliteration. Okay, so I want you to think about the things that you would put in that stone cupboard, okay, that we saw in those videos. Okay, so what items that you've brought with you could you store in the stone cupboard? Okay, and when you've thought of an item, which is a noun, so for example a necklace or a pot, and this is what's going to be jewellery, or some jewellery. Okay, once you thought of an item, I want you to link the alliterative phrase next to it. Okay, so if I'm writing necklaces, the previous word needs to start with an N. If I'm thinking about jewellery, the previous word has to start with the letter J. If I'm talking about pot, the previous word has to start with the letter P. So I want you to think of 3 more items that you will find. You may magpie some of mine, so I've got Neolithic necklaces, jangly jewellery, precious pots. Can you think of 3 more things that you would store in the stone cupboards in your hotel room, and make sure you put the alliterative word before it? So you should now be doing alliteration, okay? So then, when you've done that, I'd like you to copy this out, which is in red. This is your free sentence starter for Learning Chunk 2. So this section, you know where it should go. It goes at the bottom of your page. Inside each stone house, you will find a decorative dresser to store all your, and then what I'm asking you to do is add 2 of the alliterative phrases that you've designed in the top section and put them at the end of this sentence starter. So this is your freebie, and this is your sentence starter that you're going to start Learning Chunk 2 with. Inside each stone house, you will find a decorative dresser to store all your, and then it says add 2 alliterative phrases, for example, precious pots and beautiful belongings, okay? So no comma between them, you need to put in or insert the word and. So to store all your precious pots and beautiful belongings, or jangly jewellery, or Neolithic necklaces, okay? So I want you to think of 3 more alliterative phrases, make sure that the last word, the object, and the adjective describing it start with the same letter. Okay, do that for me now. When you've done that, pause and get ready for Learning Chunk 3. Okay, back to me. This is Learning Chunk 3. We are describing 3 elements, okay, within, well, actually 1 element, but we're looking at it 3 different ways. We're looking at the fire, okay? So we're going to think of positive words that describe the lighting of the fire. So when you've put the fire on, what kind of imagery do we get, okay? How do we feel when that fire is on, okay? So some of the words I thought of were dreamy, ambient, okay? I'd like you to think of at least 2 other words, okay, that describe the fire. And then once you've done that, so you maybe have a list of 5 now, I'd like you to underline one of the words, because that's one of the words you're going to use when it comes to our sentence starter, which is at the bottom of the page. So describe the fire, okay? I've used the word ambient, I'm going to keep that for later. The next bit is the fire is used for cooking, okay? So think about if your fire is already going, you don't have to prepare it yourself. Think about the positive words that would describe the cooking process if the fire is already lit for you. Okay, so we've got instant, I've put down fast, instantaneous is using the same root, but it's a bit more descriptive. Okay, again, can you think of 2 other words that you could use to describe the cooking? Okay, the fire is on, okay, it's on, so it's easy for you to cook. So think of 2 extra words that will help you describe how easy it is to cook on the fire. Okay, and again, you choose one of those words. I'm going to keep the word instantaneous, and I'm going to add it to my sentence at the bottom of the page. The last one is heat. Okay, the fire is generating heat. Not only does it look dreamy and ambient, not only does it help you cook because it's instantaneous heat, but also, instantaneous, also the heat. Okay, so the heat as you walk into a warm building, if you've got your own fire on at home, and you walk into the room and your fire is on, it's a really welcoming feeling, okay? So one of the words could be to describe it as welcoming, crackling, okay? So can you again, just think of 2 other words that describe the heat that the fire is giving you, okay? And then this is the sentence starter that you're going to use for Learning Chunk 3, okay? So again, we start it on a new line, and you know now where to write it. It's in that bottom section. Okay, it goes after Learning Chunk 2. And this is your sentence starter. Our centrally located fires will provide you with, and then you add your word for lighting, you put a comma in, you add your word for cooking, and then you put the word and you add your final word that you've chosen for heat. Okay, so mine would read, I would say I'm going to keep the word crackling. So mine would read, our centrally located fires will provide you with ambient lighting, with instantaneous cooking, and crackling heat. Okay, and that would be the end of my sentence. That will be the end of my learning chunk 3. All you're doing is adding the 3 words that you've underlined into that sentence that I've already given you. Okay, so our centrally located fires will provide you with, my example is ambient lighting, instantaneous cooking, and crackling heat. And that's the end of learning chunk 3, and that's the end of today's lesson. Okay, and tomorrow we'll move on to the next subheading. Okay, but best of luck with that. So don't forget to where to write it. Okay, all your jottings at the top. Okay, and then all your sentence starters, your subheadings, go where we do our writing, which is 3/4 of the way down the page, because that's the section I will be looking at, and that's the section I want to see flow with all your completed sentences in. I don't want to see any jottings in this section. They all go up the top underneath the headings learning chunk 1, learning chunk 2, and learning chunk 3, and then you write your completed sentences in the correct place. Right, best of luck with that, and I will see you on Thursday.